So let's go to the conference. I know who wants to. Let me pull up the agenda. But Dan or Lucinda or others who were able to attend, maybe we can just walk through the first day. So anyways, before we even start, the people haven't noticed the minute one of day one was a 90-second video, kind of like a trailer from a movie, like that, and it talked conceptually at a high level about labor moving away from animals and humans in the machine. At the very end, a face comes forward, and we call it Echo. And Echo is an AI character and was a co-host of the conference. So we had a lot of fun where Echo introduced me and then also invited people to go to lunch and stuff.
Paul, I assume you did that yourself, that video, using various AI tools, or no?
Yeah, no, we did it through, I used someone from Upwork in India. It cost $600, and they used Midjourney, DID, Speak.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really.
It was good. It was very good. The conference, for those people that weren't there, was actually terrific. Paul and this team did a great job. A lot of really interesting stuff, a lot of really good examples of how AI was being used, really good case studies. Shakar gave kind of a nice high-level overview to kick the thing off. Shakar is someone that Paul and I actually worked for many years ago. He's now a professor at Harvard, super smart guy. He was one of the really early guys in the internet and had a great view of what he thought the world was going to look like before there was much to the internet. And he's got some interesting perspectives about how AI is going to impact the world. And my guess is a lot of them will turn out to be right, but it was a really interesting couple of days.
Yeah. Dan, what were your one or two highlights that you took away?
Just, you got to get in, you got to get involved with this right now. No waiting, just, dig in. And then I thought the termites versus, I'm sorry, I forget the other part of the analogy, but just
tornadoes.
Sort of say again?
Tornadoes.
Yes, versus tornadoes. Sort of the termites versus tornadoes, which is industries are going to get sort of chewed up very slowly, maybe from the bottom, and they won't even notice what's going on. And as opposed to, suddenly a tornado is going to happen and wipe out your business. And that was sort of the impetus for getting involved and making sure that you're paying attention to this and experimenting and learning, because otherwise you may not be aware of what's going to happen to your business. And suddenly it'll be like, uh-oh, I'm in big trouble.
So I can add a little bit. I was there for the second half of day two, and there were just some really fascinating applications, such as the power of generative AI applied locally and globally by John Werner. He kind of took us on a history lesson on disruption. We talked about, there was one on the transformation of the weather industry by Dan Slagan. That was really fascinating because it really talked about, I know that for a lot of the weather industry, things are still written in Fortran in the government. And just to see what his company, Tomorrow.io is doing was very incredible. And then really sources of sustained competitive advantage in terms of, like, if you're just doing using an open AI type language model as doing all the work of what you're doing, then that's going to be not a sustainable advantage. But if you're using in the way that Airbnb used the internet to fundamentally transform the hotel industry or the lodging industry, where you have kind of these two markets, et cetera. I mean, we can't even see those second order applications yet, right? We're only looking at the first order applications. But I think, as somebody mentioned previously, you got to be in it to win it, right? You have to be learning things now. You have to learn how the first order applications work in order to be able to be there and actually be able to even capitalize on when the second order applications start to come. And we may see those in like 3 to 5 years.
That's great. Thanks, Lucinda. Who else wants to share? I see Alex or Alden.
Yeah. For me, the best part was the high fidelity of the conversations. It was basically extremely, high impact groups. And so the conversations were also very effective, rather than having 3,000 people at the conference and then everybody's running in 15 different directions. Every conversation was very good. And then the speakers also brought some great insight, especially there was a PwC panel on LLMs. That was good to see. I was happy to see that deployments are starting, because there are a lot of experimentation going on, and we are now starting seeing deployments. So that was good to see.
Great. Thanks, Alden.
This is Tanya. I was there too, and thank you, Paul, for the invite to be part of the volunteer staff. So I had a behind the scenes view as well. But what I loved about the conference was, sorry, I didn't have the video on, but what I loved about the conference is that it was so use case oriented. So it made it much more practical to digest and understand how this technology is going to help. So there was like the education use case that the gentleman from, it wasn't McGraw from, I mean, I thought that was phenomenal. Then you had the use case of the gentleman that had the insurance company, the car insurance company, and he actually walked through specific examples and what it looks like behind the scene that he has already built using this technology. And then I really love the investment and the PE angle to the conference as well, and how PEs are looking. There were two private equities in the panel, and one was more conservative, and the other one you could see was just totally, we're just going to start, investing in startups. So I just thought all of that was, really well put together. That it was, tactical. It was by use case, by industry. And the other one that struck me was it was in the marketing panel. I don't think her name was in the list of speakers, but she talked about the importance of change management.
Oh, Rachel.
Rachel, yes.
Last edition, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was very, very good, because we tend to forget that when we introduce new technologies, we tend to forget that for that technology to be very, very successful, you need to make sure that you prepare, the audience, you prepare the workforce, that you have very sound and robust organizational change management and training. And I'll just close out with a comment that someone made that, and I think it was PwC, saying, hey, we should really take this opportunity to train our people, right? Not just be like, hey, this is new technology, let's get the new people that know this, but it's gonna impact so many areas of an organization and an enterprise that really we need to train all of our workforce. And there were several companies that said that they have already launched training classes, just like we have security awareness classes, that they have already rolled out AI classes for their entire organizations. So I thought the conference was really great. So great job, Paul and Lauren. I don't know how you guys pulled it off in 3 months of planning, but it was really well done.
Well, thank you, Tanya. We really appreciate your help. David Owen, thanks for raising your hand. Oh, did we lose you, David?
Yeah, great. Really appreciate being included. I thought the most substantial case study in terms of evidence and measurements provided was the one from Jerry Car Insurance.
Yeah.
And so I recommend anybody who wants to see, really strong stats on the impact of generative AI on customer service with a chatbot. I also thought it was really helpful, the attorneys who spoke of, what we can look to in terms of where laws will come from, sort of prognostic, where we can look for indications of how things might develop by looking at Europe, and then 2 key Supreme Court cases on fair use, the Prince painting that was done from a photograph that Andy Warhol had done from a photograph, and the Jack Spaniels case, which I had not heard of. But I thought one of their misses was they didn't talk about how advanced China's regulations are on AI, and I think that's a good place to look as well. I thought the VC were really very strong. 2 takeaways from them. Rudina just spoke that, she's seeing in companies she's looking at about 60% of code being written by AI. And that's remarkable. I think it was her who also talked about, typically when they traditionally looked at startup teams. They look for a strong CEO and CTO. And now they've added a chief data officer to what they think a strong team requires. Two final comments are, get ready for tomorrow IO's Gale weather forecasting. I didn't realize this. They're launching, or part of launching, satellites that are going to give really good forecasting to parts of the planet that have never had weather, accurate weather forecasting. And just for fun, I was struck by the termites quote as well. It reminds me of what Hemingway said about bankruptcy. I'll paraphrase it. He said, it happens two ways: first gradually, and then all at once.
Well, great. Well, thanks, David. That was really some great highlights. Any others that attended or want to share?
And just a quick addition to what Tanya just said. Yes, everybody, two main key takeaways for me. It's everybody was saying about educational part. So you need to train everybody in generative AI. And first of all, it's a sense of urgency. You need to act now and move forward quickly. So, and thanks for all other presenters. It was very informative, and for me personally, it was more like interesting business view of the situation, because I am coming from technical background, and seeing this business side of it, it was really interesting. So thank you. And by the way, Paul, I am a little bit surprised that you created this echo avatar. Probably you should have created like your avatar model after you. So.
Yeah, no, we had a lot of debate on who it should be, if it's male or female, the voice. It was a lot of internal debate, but we're still in. But Alex, we're delighted you were able to join us and give a highlight. Who else? Val, you've seen you're back safe in Colombia. Welcome back home.
Yes, made it back. I didn't want to come back though, to be honest with you. I love Boston, and the conference was just great. It was just mind blowing to see everybody just so hyped about, Gen AI, the great people that I was able to meet. I was back and forth, in and out, trying to work the conference as well as possible. But I really loved Mr. Ian Robertson from Microsoft, talking about hackathons. That's what I'm trying to do internally.
Yeah, Andy Roberts.
Andy Roberts, yeah, I'm sorry. And he talked about having hackathons with some of his customers. And that's what I'm trying to have internally in the fintech that I work with, because I think it's so important to get everybody acquainted with the technology. Because believe it or not, I've spoken to a lot of people, not only on my trip, but inside my company, and they know about it, but they haven't used it much. So getting your hands dirty, and the swimming analogy that they make, you have to learn. The only way to learn how to swim is by doing it, right? So I really connected, but I was just blown away by everything. Everything was awesome.
Well, great. Well, Val, I appreciate you making the trip all the way up here.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. Seriously, it was awesome.
Any other contribution or questions for people who weren't there, for the folks who attended?
How many people were there? What was the attendance?
Yeah, so we had 320 register. I think 270 was probably the height on day one, and day two was probably 230.
How many speakers total?
40.
And then what venue was it in? Was it one of the hotels?
It was at the Royal Sonesta Hotel in Cambridge. It's a 4-star hotel right outside, next to Boston, right on the Charles River.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Paul, I was going to add, for those people that weren't there, it was actually sort of a unique way of doing the conference, because it was everybody that spoke for basically 25 minutes. So it wasn't breakout sessions where you only got to see, a small portion of who was there. Literally, if you attended the conference, you got to see 100% of the conference. So it was kind of a unique way to do it, and I thought pretty interesting.
Go ahead,
and the other thing that was kind of cool, Paul, that you did was inserting that academic minute. Oh. I mean, I say minute, but it was very nice to have that.
Well, why we had a lot of debate on we should do. For people who don't know, we doing a lot of partnership with Boston University, Questrom School of Business, one of the things they suggested we did was that what we call an academic minute. And I think it was 3 or 4, maybe 5 of their professors stood up and gave a 1 or 2 minute overview on a particular topic. And Tanya, what did you find that useful?
I think it was the person from New York, the New York University, that he walked us through how
Conor Gregor,
how he talks to different C-suite and what does he talk about, and that basically it's not him teaching but trying to pull from the people that he's supposed to be teaching what they want from the technology. And I just thought that is really how this is going to work, right? Because you need to have that domain expertise. You know your processes better than anyone. You know the low-hanging fruit in your area. The AI consultant is more about pulling out that, what is it that you need, and then how can you apply that technology.
Yeah, I thought Connor was great. And I thought we're seeing this theme a lot, and Connor kind of reinforced it. Instead of taking the technology to the people, figure out a way to get the people take a step towards the technology. And he was talking about how, sparking interest and curiosity and learning. But go ahead, Mike Novak, and then we'll go to Lucinda.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. 2 questions, though. For you specifically, what were your 2 top highlights and lowlights? And then in general, when's the next one? Have you started planning for 2024 yet?
Yeah, so still tired from last week. So to me, the highlights were just a reaffirming, Linda Sim mentioned early on, this is very real. It is a very unique moment in time. And the people who are in this room and on this call are recognizing it. 99% of our other colleagues don't recognize it. So this is real change happening. And one of the reasons I say that was because I've been through enough technology changes. It's hard enough to get a project approved. To get it approved and implemented. And day one, we started with John Spottiswoode from Jerry, which is a marketplace for car insurance. I mean, that was one of the most impressive case studies I've seen. They are in production. It's a 400% ROI. They're saying $4 million this year. He showed us the prompts. He showed us how, I think it took like 90% of some of the text things out, and they did it with a team of 4 or 5 people. It's breathtaking. And, they're just getting started. Low light for me was we had so many people so excited about it. I wish we had one person getting video testimonials. I think we got 10 or 15. I wish I had 3, because we could have gotten 50 or 80 people talking about why this was useful to them. So it'll remind us to learn. It'll gain excitement. We are going to do this annually. We're looking at, I literally just looked at Park Plaza Hotel as one of the venues. We're aiming to do it again next year, probably double the size. And next year we'll have 2 or 3 tracks. We'll have a main area and 2, 3 tracks. That's probably the biggest opportunity that we didn't have because we wanted to keep it a little smaller. But it was over. I mean, people don't know. I mean, this was an idea in May 18th and May 19th. We bought the URL and we said, we're going to do this in 3.5 months. And everyone said we're absolutely nuts. And we were a little tired and busy, but we were fortunate it came off. Yeah, go ahead, Lucinda.
Yeah, I just want to say that, this is such an impressive conference. It was really valuable in terms of just, how the thought that went into the different use cases and putting in different aspects of this, the quality of the speakers. And then actually, I just wanted to, so thank you very much for you and Liz and John and everybody else who was involved for doing this conference. It's a real service to Boston. And the other thing was that the after party, I swear to God, I don't think I've been to a reception where everybody who I bumped into was just so impressive and really interesting. And I was just getting LinkedIns right and left because I just wanted to follow up with so many people. And that was during the conference as well as at the party, at the reception afterwards.
There was a reception after day 1 and the reception after day 2. Are you talking about both of them? Or which?
No, I was only here for the day 2. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's right.
Well, we have some people asking about the recordings, where that will be.
Yeah. So a couple things. So we did record it, and all but maybe 2 or 3 speakers gave us approval for it. We're in the process of finally uploading 4 terabytes of data up to our video producer who's going to take it and slice it at that. That should be available in a week and a half. And one of the things we're going to roll out is just a base membership at $89 a year, and that'll include a whole bunch of things. One of which will be the access to all the videos. So stay tuned for that, and we'll probably have a discount for all the folks in this group because we want to acknowledge all the early adopters here. But we did videotape it, and it will be available. We are looking at anyway. So that's one. Other questions? Indigo, thank you I have not been following chat.
Yeah, Paul, whenever you have somebody who can do this, but that BCG study looked really interesting, and a couple people have asked for the link.
Oh, yes, there's someone, I can send it out. If someone could look it up, it's a BCG. It's really, really impressive study. I think it was 3,000, 9,000. I remember Karim at HBS telling me about it. He was one of the guys on it. They took 3 different groups, a Boston consulting group. I think one was a control group. One had some training. One had more training.
Okay, I'll look it up. I'll put it on there.
I actually have it, Paul. I can post it. It's Liz. I can post it in the chat.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh, thank Liz. I didn't realize you're on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Liz, good to have you.
Hi.
What's impressive about it is that you've got these really educated, high-end professionals to begin with, just to get to a Boston Consulting Group, and to see the 10 to 12% improvement on it is stunning and real money. And again, it's I think it's a reinforcement of why we see professional services, accounting, law, strategy consulting, IT consulting is absolutely in the crucible that you cannot wait 2 or 4 years because the termites are in the walls now. And the real question is, 2 years from now, today, no one would ever hire a lawyer who didn't know how to use LexisNexis or an accountant who didn't know how to use an Excel. I mean, 2 years from now, are we really going to hire a lawyer who's not using extensively large language models? I think the answer is clearly no in many cases. Any other, Liz, what are your thoughts and takeaways from the
Yeah, just one thing I did post. There's a point of view on that BCG working paper that was out. It is tremendous. My takeaway from the conference was that I don't know if it was right place, right time, right topic, right people. It just kind of felt like it came together. I know we were really nervous about the format, meaning that it wasn't a typical conference where you kind of come in and you see your topics and then you leave. A lot of people usually do that at conferences. This is one where everything built and you kind of, stayed and it kind of built on itself. And we were wondering how that was going to work. And I think in this particular case, it worked really well. And I guess I wanted to get some feedback from this team if you felt the same way about that, or if that was different for you, and if it would have been, how you liked that compared to other kind of conferences, because we spent a huge amount of time thinking that through, and I'd like to get some feedback on that.
I, for one, thought it went really well. I thought it was nice because you didn't miss anything, and it actually seemed like it did build. The first day I thought was really good, and the second day was the more I only was able to stay for the morning, but it was like, wow, just everything on the morning and the second day just seemed to really click. So even though it was really different to me, it seemed like a really nice way to do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think, Liz, having it all in one room and one big conference room was great, because the technology, the use cases you're hearing about one industry, you can see it carry on to another industry. And I can't remember who had talked about this technology is more horizontal than vertical. Mm-hmm. And you could see it by being in the room, listening about healthcare, hospital use cases, and then then someone would be talking about an education use case, and then someone else about a marketing use case. So I really love that it was all in one room.
Nice. So for you guys, it was good that it was all together and there wasn't, so do you think breakout tracks are good or not good for this subject?
I think it's so new that it was actually nice not to have breakout tracks, because that way I didn't miss anything. If it's sort of old hat and it's obvious what you should be paying attention to, maybe the tracks would be great, but I don't know. I, for one, if you were doing it again, I mean, who knows what it'll be like next year. Next year, some of this may be old hat, but I really enjoyed this format, and I'm glad you guys took the risk.
Mm. That's so interesting. Paul, as you know, we talked about this ad nauseum, but good to hear, because we didn't have multiple tracks, so it worked to our advantage.
Got a couple people with the hands up. Thanks. We'll go to Alex first, and then Angela. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, sounds like it was a great conference. I wasn't there. I'm just curious. For the enterprise use cases, obviously you need to incorporate your private knowledge base into the large language models. I don't know. Is there anything come out of the conference? What stopping enterprise, or what make the leadership to be more hesitant to pilot on some of those things? What are their hesitations?
I think others comment. I mean, clearly risk number one. I mean, that was number one. Number two, number three is what I certainly got in the conversation, particularly with larger companies, particularly in regulated industries. I don't know if others. And it's interesting if you look at PwC's, their whole messaging is around responsible AI. KPG's around that. Microsoft talks about that. And when they mean responsible, what they really mean is inside your security infrastructure. Your data is going to be safe. Your data is what differentiates you. It's not what software you're going to be using here. And we've got a way and approach to do that. But it's that was the biggest impediment. The other thing I heard from a lot of people was that a lot of companies budgeted for recession this year. So any Gen AI projects were outside of budget, little pop-up ones, versus I think going into next year, you're going to have a lot more line items in the capital and individual function budgets to fund projects.
Yeah, makes sense.
Those lines, it was remarkable. The VC, actually, I'm mixing up conferences. It was the Gen AI meetup here in Boston, but we're saying they're seeing an unprecedented number of seed companies coming in with a few $100,000 in revenue from pilots they've got, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna convert to actual customers, but everybody's got to have say, hey, board, we're doing something in Gen AI, so they're gonna easily sign up for a pilot.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So a few more questions, then we'll go to open mic. Go ahead, Angela.
I mean, I thought you guys did a fabulous job. I mean, for me, I was contrasting it to Inbound, the HubSpot conference, which I actually did go to the week before, which is like the big football field is the Boston Convention Center. You're going up and down 3 sets of floors. They're running back and forth, like doing 20,000 steps a day. It's crazy. I actually love this format, especially for this type of content, because as has already been said, there's so much horizontal information that if we had tracks, I think we would have missed too much. And I think even next year, we don't even know, because that was the other takeaway, that is growing so exponentially. God knows where it's going to be next year. But I don't know. I think you might even have a 5-day conference next year, because there may be some days where you might want to just do a deep dive in one area. The hospital guy, on Wednesday, the stuff that he was doing at that hospital in Portugal, that was amazing. Amazing. I'm like, get him here in somebody's hospital here. Pick one. I'm just thinking about, lately they've been talking about the triage time just in the ER, people spending 6, 9, 8, 10,000 hours in the ER. Get that AI in there. You get this triage down to minutes. It's just amazing. And I also love tomorrow at AI.io. And it was interesting that him talking about it, I think that was the same day when we went home and saw, what was it? What is it?
Hurricane.
Yeah. Libya and the earthquake. And I'm like, yeah, tomorrow IO needs to come out yesterday, not tomorrow. Yeah.
It was really big. Yeah, for folks that don't know, Jose flew in from Portugal to give his case study in HESP Hospital, and he and the hospital's gotten tons of awards. They are probably at least 5 years ahead of the States, if not 10. And he gave an example of AI noticing an internal bleeding problem with the patient before the doctor and nurse. And the patient actually wrote a thank you note to the AI to the hospital, and dozens. So it really gave a real life example where healthcare could go and is going one spot, and where we can aspire to, at least in the country. Go ahead, Lucinda, then we'll go to Ray.
Yeah. So just kind of on the kind of harkening back to the discussion on, one or two tracks or whatever. My initial reaction was no, keep it one. But then if you're going to make it bigger, then I do think that, and there's certain kind of tracks that you can do that are like if somebody's interested in the business track and the use track and writing use cases and ROI, et cetera, that's a different person than a person who's like, I want to get into the nitty gritty of deployment, So I do think that that may be one thing. And then I think you also brought up the example of healthcare, right? And healthcare is literally its own universe, right? And biotech too. And so I think that if you want to do some industry ones, that could probably safely be done without people feeling like they're missing out on things. So if you have a bigger one, I think there are some paths to multiple tracks that you can do and still have people feel like, yeah, I saw everything I wanted to see.
Great. Thanks, Lucinda. Go ahead, Ray.
So I've been in the live events industry my entire life. And currently I work for one of the largest companies that produces conferences. I'm based in San Diego, and we've had several AI conferences already. I also took about a week to write a keynote speech for what I call AI GPT. As I looked at the table of contents there, or your agenda list, it was excellent. I loved it. I was going through trying to grab as much as I could as you were scrolling by it and highlighting. It was really, really good. You've produced an incredible event. And so I wanted to just add to some of the comments that have taken place here. As you move forward, breakouts are essential. This area of AI, automated processing, combined with GPT is enormous, and it covers every vertical out there. And so as you move forward, sure, there's verticals, there's horizontals, but as you go across all the various industries, AI is already touching almost every vertical industry that is out there. And so it's great to have a general session. When I wrote my keynote for this topic, I went through all the different areas, but I just touched them. And without getting into it, whether it's C-suite or whether it's every area of a business and every industry there is out there, there's opportunities to use this in a major, major way. And when they talk about the idea of, well, is it a tornado or is it the critters in the building tearing the building apart? What I wrote in that is that it is already here. And if people don't get up with it, start learning about it, your business will fall apart. Your business will go down because there'll be other companies who will get up to speed with this technology, and they will run rings and circles around you. So that gives me just a quick summary of this. It's wonderful, Paul. By the way, I'm Boston-based, even though I'm in San Diego. I used to be the production stage manager at the Orpheum Theater.
Oh, well, give me a call. We'll put you to work next year.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I can help you out. Who knows? But I got conferences down here. I work for one of the largest companies that produces content. So, but it's exciting to hear a group of people who are so high level, intellectual, talking about this subject. That's why I thought I'd come by and see who everybody is. It's a big, big subject, and there's a lot going on with it. So, and you have to break it apart. You got AI, but you've also got GPT. You put those two together, and it's really, really powerful. Because GPT in its own right is what a lot of people are just focusing on as well, especially automated GPT. That's where it gets really interesting. A lot to talk about there, but I don't want to take up everybody's time. But
Thank you, Ray, for sharing. Let's move to open mics. Open mic for the new people are, opportunities to grab the mic for two minutes and share a use case or something you're learned this week, or to ask the group a question. It can be as basic as how to do something simple or super complex. Go ahead, Manthis. You're raising your hand.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah. Thanks. You always see that. I love it. So I just give a little wave when I want to jump in. I just wanted to share something really interesting. I think many people may have missed. I actually had trouble finding it again. There's this gentleman who works over at Microsoft, Jared Spataro. He's the corporate VP for Modern Work. And he put out a video this week that was talking about the Copilot for Microsoft 365. And I'll share a LinkedIn link to the video, but he said what they found really interesting was that the senior managers actually had more success with it than the junior managers. And that was unexpected, because from a digital literacy perspective, you'd think the younger managers would be more ready to adopt the change and adapt to the new environment. And what they found, and in hindsight, it made perfect sense to me, is that with these tools, everyone needs to have management skills. That's how you're going to use these AI agents as they continue to grow and get more capabilities. Is you're going to have teams, basically virtual teams, working for you, but you need to know how to manage and direct them. And I just thought that was such a simple yet powerful insight about how to work with these things. And their early testing with the early access program to Copilot is proving that out. That's where they discovered that. So I just thought I'd share that, Jim.
Great. Thanks, Mantis. Others?
This is a shout out for anybody who might be able to give me some insight. So I'm consulting to a healthcare management consulting company, the strategic, like competitive intelligence and all. And we are developing a curriculum to train all their staff on using Gen AI for marketing. And I want to baseline their abilities and then benchmark them, planning to do a baseline without Gen AI after the training, immediately after, to benchmark their performance using Gen AI, and then 2 weeks after, benchmark them again, maybe again. Anybody who has any thoughts or experience, constructing something like this, would be 24 participants. They're all going to be required to do the baseline and benchmarking. I'd really welcome you to reach out to me. I'll put my LinkedIn in.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thanks. So, I wasn't able to make it this time. I will be there next year. One of the conferences I attended instead of going up to Boston, I'm down here in the Washington, D.C. area. I attended a congressional hackathon last week.
I'm sorry, Mike. Sorry, I just want to. Sorry for interrupting. Dave asked a question. Were you answering his question or starting to? Okay, so just hold on a quick second. And can anyone help David's question on how to benchmark? Dave, the only thing I've seen in some of them is asking people literally what they will pay for the tool at the end, as a measure of effectiveness.
Well, these are employees, so they're not going to. The company would pay for it. We want to actually measure the quality and speed of the market research.
Paul, I met at the conference. I don't know if you met her. A lady from Vancouver that did marketing training. I don't know if she does benchmarking. I was just looking in LinkedIn. Rosemary Briscoe.
Oh yeah, she's from California. She's a frequent.
Oh, California. Okay.
She's an attendee here. I don't know.
Oh, she's in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she might have just moved, but what she explained to me is that she specialized in training marketing teams and AI. I don't know if she does any benchmarking, but that's the information I have.
If you email me her, I'm happy to connect to Rosemary. She's very helpful.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. So, Mike, thanks for being patient. Now we'll go back to your hackathon.
Yeah, no worries. So anyway, I was at a congressional hackathon held at Capitol Hill here in DC. And it was interesting to hear their perspective, because for them, the business case included things like, how do we contact the constituents? And when constituents contact us, how do I know that's really Paul and not a deep fake of Paul's voice? They also went into other use cases, trying to do analytics and research. I've got an idea for painting the sky white. Has anyone ever proposed this before? Let's go look at the Library of Congress. I would love to have an AI do the analysis and come back with a Venn diagram that shows me here's the top 15 cases, et cetera. So it's just really an interesting perspective on legislative process use cases using AI for analytics. And then also in my little niche of what I call conversational AI, which includes both generative, but also directed, something you'd use with a smart speaker. Because I see that day when you get in your car and I've got my smartphone, but my car has a built-in smart speaker. Which one is going to control my question? If I ask them, tell me how to get somewhere or what's going on and summarize what the news person said on the radio, which one would control that conversation? So again, there's companies out there trying to work through some of that organizational side of how will multiple devices work if they use voice to communicate to a human or to another device if they're air gapped. Anyway, so it was very interesting last week, the congressional side. I can give people more details on it, but the good news is there's things going on that public sector side as well. And I'm very encouraged by what I've seen so far.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. Last one, Lisa. Would you have your hand up, Lisa?
Yes, I did. So, hi, thank you for calling on me. Like I said earlier, I'm, brand new. Let's say this is my first meeting. So if you can give me 3 top things to do, before the next meeting, what would it be? Because everyone's like, oh, you need to jump on this now and get on it before, a tornado and a termite. So
baseline, have you spent an hour on ChatGPT or Bing Chat, or have you spent any time on those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen that.
Mentis, what would you recommend?
I can tell you as well.
Okay, we'll do Mentis and Ray. Mentis, you're
yeah. Sorry, what does Lisa do?
Go ahead, Ray.
I'm an accountant. I've been an accountant for 10 years.
Okay. 2 words. Code interpreter.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then,
life.
Yeah.
The topic getting into is not just timely, but it's revolutionary. The topic being Beyond Autocomplete, a developer's guide to harnessing the power of ChatGPT. We're talking about the intersection of artificial intelligence and software development.
That someone's recording.
Growth and innovation.
Lisa, code interpreter, I think it's now called code
data analysis.
Advanced data analysis. Yeah.
Advanced data analysis.
There you go.
Thank you. Lisa, is a way you can upload an Excel spreadsheet and it'll analyze it, and it's pretty stunning.
Yeah,
it's
Paul,
a mini business analyst.
If I can jump in, Paul, I just posted a link to the YouTube. Paul hosted me for a workshop last week called ChatGPT for Spreadsheets, which was about an introduction to this code interpreter now called Advanced Data Analysis. I put the link to that in on YouTube as well in there. That's probably a good place to start to see what this thing is, some of the capabilities of what it can do for you.
Thank you. I appreciate YouTube videos very much.
A deck of cards.
I'll give you a very organized way to do it. The biggest issue is what vertical, what business are you in? You said accounting. This applies to everyone. And then Paul said, have you used ChatGPT? It's best to get ChatGPT 4 and pay the $20 a month because the information is vastly better. So do that first. The next thing is this. You make a list of your business. What does it do? You have customers, you have processes, you have accounting, you pay taxes for people, you handle their bills, you handle their payroll maybe. Correct? Within ChatGPT, you ask the question, and anybody can do this with any industry, but let's stay with you, Lisa, because you asked for account. The first question you would ask ChatGPT, it's all about prompts. It's all about learning how to use and write the prompts and how to do a series of prompts, not just one. It takes a series. So the question initially with accounting would be, how can I use ChatGPT for my accounting business? Please provide a list of all the different ways that I can use it. It will give you a list. Then what you do is you take the first topic that it came up with and you say, please expand on this first topic of how I can use ChatGPT in my business for you accounting. You do that with every single one of the things that it provides. And then like it was mentioned about spreadsheets, you can ask the question, how can I use ChatGPT, but also how can I use AI to better, more efficiently use spreadsheets for accounting for my clients? Then you just keep on going. You just keep on going with that. I have already, just with that alone, opened up a week's worth of work, and you will know more about how ChatGPT and AI is currently being used within the accounting field. It's already being used. There's already off the shelf AI products out there in the accounting industry. And that would be one of the prompts. Can you tell me what off the shelf AI applications already exist off the shelf? The next prompt would be, can you tell me what existing applications already exist off the shelf for GPT? That's two different prompts. That's two different questions.
That's great, Ray. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
At least you're seeing this literally this conversation. It's almost like as you would talk to a coworker. We'll do RJ last one, and then we'll wrap up. Go ahead, RJ.
Okay, so super quick. It answers both the previous person's question and also David's question. I posted a link to a YouTube video that basically talks about the different dimensions of a person's workflow. And that's what David's going to perhaps want to keep in mind when he does his study, and also others here, because your workflow involves different dimensions. One in particular is ideation. You have to come up with ideas. And that's one of the things that generative AI is really good at. Some other things it's not as good at. So you got to realize what it's good at, how it can help you in your workflow. And that video will help give you some ideas. So look at the link that I posted for David. You'll see in there, and that might help you all.
Super. Thank you, RJ. Great way to wrap up. Everyone have a fantastic week. And thanks for all the good feedback on the conference.